Hi, my name is Zach. This is my video application essay number 1 for COM 254, specifically prompt number 1 and the social media prompt that is there that bases itself in chapters 1 and chapter 2 of the 5th edition of Reflect and Relate by McCornack and Morrison, which is published in 2019. The pages I'll be focusing on are going to be pages 48 through 54. And I want to talk a little bit first about social penetration theory, and then sort of talking about your online presence and the competently disclosing yourself section of this chapter. So first and foremost, I'd like to say that I only really use 2 forms of social media. That is, I have a Twitter account and I have an Instagram account. I have my name, my username, and my handles are purposefully very long and multiple words so that I am not easily found, so that I give myself the ability to post more, or post things that I'm closely related to and invested in more freely than I feel like I wouldn't be able to if I didn't have a more obscure username. So that plays into a lot of the things that I'm able to post, and I think that highlights just an important way, like I can't be found as easily as maybe I should be. That being said, I think that this plays to what McCornack and Morrison talk about in the social penetration theory, and that is that there are layers to what you disclose depending on how well you know somebody, right? That first and foremost, like outermost layer of that social penetration theory is that it's just like your basic demographic information, right? I'm a white male. I'm 32, or I will be 32 in a couple months, and like that is the basic information. But what you don't see in those next layers in are like, okay, well, I have one brother, and I I've lost a parent. I'm big into music, and I've been in a couple bands. These are things that, again, you wouldn't know unless you actually studied to know me. However, now when I look at my Twitter and my Instagram, on my Twitter, I'm much freer with what I talk about. I engage with it on a more active basis, and so I feel like I've built up enough of a following, and I've known my audience, as the book talks about on page 50 at the very bottom, when you are in the competently disclosing yourself section. I know my audience. I know who I'm talking to. I know who my followers are. I don't have a ton of them, which is great, so I know that when I'm posting things, I know what might get a better reception, and what might not. I oftentimes use my Twitter as a sounding board for stupid jokes and puns that I want to put out there, because maybe I think I'm funny at times, and maybe I'm not. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because it's my Twitter and nobody's really going to find me. My Instagram has a larger following on it, but I don't post nearly as much. There's a big that visual component adds a much larger or more comprehensive level of the warranting value that the book talks about on page 53, and that's going through like what's going to get likes, what's going to generate likes, and what's going to generate like interest in what people are thinking about me. For myself, I usually try to keep some level of consistency between what I post on Twitter, what I post on Instagram, and how I act in everyday life, because I think that it's really easy to get caught up in having different facets and different sides of yourself, and so people will downplay things that they don't like on Instagram much more than they will on a Twitter, maybe. There's a much larger sense of curation to me on Instagram. And I think that, again, that comes to that social penetration theory and like the warranting value, and what are the things that people value, like a general population, a general majority are going to value, and what things aren't. So I think that plays a large hand in when some people make their decisions to post certain information where I don't necessarily make the same decision, because my audience is not that large. The other part of it too is that I think that I very much try to avoid stereotypes, and that's something that the book talks about when disclosing yourself, because I think that if you already have these preconceived notions of communities and groups of people, you aren't necessarily open to other ideas, and you can't learn that way, and that's not necessarily something that I value. And the other part of that too is I think that you lose out on the social aspect of social media the less inclusive you are, or excuse me, sorry, the more exclusive you are, you lose out on the social media aspect of that. So you don't necessarily want to limit those opportunities to learn more about the people that are around you, and the whole reason social media exists, right? And not just to share awful memes or politically loaded memes or factually incorrect memes or just to yell fake news because you don't like something. And so I look at it that way too. All in all, though, I would say that if somebody were to meet me outside of social media after only having known me on social media, I think that generally you would get an accurate depiction of who I am. I'll try to be more than just like the tall white male, and I hope that I am more inclusive than that stereotype oftentimes can be. I understand why that stereotype is the way that it is, but wanting to make sure that I am consistent across these three levels is something that's very big to me when it comes to interpersonal communication, when it comes to effectively using social media in both a healthy and productive way.